Hello, everybody. Great to be with you on this Saturday afternoon. I wanted to give you a few updates. I know some of you may very well be already on your way to see President Trump. You may be there waiting in line. For those of you I want to see some comments. So got my comments streaming here, but there are a few things that I wanted to be able to update you on today. There have been a lot of things happening, as you know, in the last 24 hours, 48 hours. We've been posting them up here, but we've had a lot of questions. So I thought I would get on here. It's going to be less than 15 minutes. So those of you that are on your way to see President Trump today, good luck. Have a great time. The weather's going to hold out. And one thing people were asking, I'm going to start out with this. They said, do you believe the polls that are showing that President Trump is behind by 8 points? I think that's one of the latest polls that we're seeing. And here is your answer. On Wednesday, Vice President Pence visited Grand Rapids. On Thursday, Lara Trump was in mid-Michigan. Today, President Trump is arriving and coming to Muskegon. And by the way, a shout out to Senator John Bumstead, who's going to be on stage with the president today. Congratulations to him. It's a great honor. He served us well in Michigan. And for those of you in Muskegon, it's an honor, obviously, for you to have a president come in and fly in to meet. So those are three things. And I found out that next week there's going to be a Women for Trump bus tour going through Michigan with several members of the family as well. And the reason I point this out is, again, none of this would possibly be happening if indeed the polls were correct, which means we're gaining if we aren't already in a good position here. We know these lockdowns have affected many people, and there's a lot of people that aren't being counted. I know I'm not being polled, and if I am, I'm certainly not answering those questions. So hopefully some of you are there. I wanted to see if any of you are over there in Muskegon. If so, give us a shout out here. But so we'll move on to the second thing. We have an Unlock Michigan update. Remember, we told you a week ago, as we had turned in those petitions, that we were going to be sending a letter, or Unlock was, to the Secretary of State to find out if indeed she was going to follow through within the 60-day time frame. As we had heard in the past, even before a federal court, her office had said citizens' initiatives should be able to be done within a 60-day time frame. As you all know, we got 200,000 additional signatures. There is not a doubt that we have accuracy, and we have way more than enough. This should not be a difficult process. We understand there's election coming up in a matter of 17 days, but she could get after it right after that if they can't get at it sooner. And again, what would be the reason for a Secretary of State, an Attorney General, or a governor to stand in the way of abolishing a law that is now considered ultimately and completely, unilaterally unconstitutional? What would be the reason? Well, you might have got a hint earlier this week. As you know, the House had a hearing on voting to repeal the 45 law in order to send that to the governor to find out, would she indeed just sign it and get rid of this law that's unconstitutional, or would she indeed veto it, even though the court has ruled it unconstitutional? They held a hearing, and Tom Barrett spoke there, and some of the Democrats actually were asking him, well, maybe we should just leave that law and we should modify it so that it would be constitutional. That shows you where they're coming from. So a letter was sent to the Secretary of State, and I have right here a letter back from the Secretary of State to Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey, and I'm just going to read it to you so that you can hear exactly the frame of mind of the people that sit in Lansing. We talked about maybe having to march down there in the future here. It may very well come true looking at a letter like this. Dear Majority Leader Shirkey, thank you for your inquiry concerning the Bureau of Elections review of the Unlock Michigan petition signatures, and for sharing your desire to see the process finalized before the end of the lame duck session. It is incumbent that the professionals in this Bureau of Elections proceed with their considerable work absent of political pressure to expedite a process that on average takes several months. Indeed, as I have stated to you previously and have made it clearly publicly, a methodical review of the submissions of this sort takes an average of 105 days. As you know, 105 days, I don't know where the 5 comes in, takes us into January, miraculously just before the end of the lame duck session. You can independently verify this estimate, as members of the media already have done, and know that this is because it takes considerable time and resources for staff to confirm and validate a sample of signatures prior to make a recommendation to the State Board of Canvassers. I know that you would want us to sacrifice the deliberate, tested, secure, methodical review for speed. I know the citizens of Michigan would not want us to do that either. It also is important to note that the 105-day estimate is just that. It's an estimate based upon the average time it takes the Bureau of Elections to review petition signatures. This does not take into consideration the considerable work the staff at the Bureau now is engaged with in supporting the administration of statewide elections in the midst of a global pandemic that will see more voters participating than any election in the state's history. I know that you'll share my recognition of the importance that the Bureau staff places to ensure our clerks, election workers, and voters have all the tools, resources, and attention that we can provide in supporting the administration of a successful election. The statement in your letter that the signatures review process takes up to 60 days when applied as a general rule to an initiative submitted at a given point during a year is not an accurate reflection of the Director of Elections statement or Bureau policy. There is also no legal or historical precedent to suggest that all or even most initiative petition signatures submitted to the Bureau of Elections are canvassed within 60 days of receipt as a matter of practice or required policy. In reality, it is unusual, even in the best of circumstances, to complete a thorough and methodical review. This is why the average number of days it has taken the Bureau to process the petition over the past several years is 105 days from receipt of signatures. This is one exception in this procedure where expedited review of signatures is required under the law. Current law requires that the Bureau of Elections to complete signature review no later than 100 days before a general election to afford the legislature the constitutional mandated 40-day session. That's the session time frame for them to be able to vote to get rid of the law, within which it may decide whether to enact the proposal, reject it, or submit it alternately to go on to the electorate. When an initiative is delivered at a 160-day deadline, the Bureau has no choice but to prioritize the signature counting and review overall the responsibilities because of the Board of Canvassers' constitutional mandate to process the petition by day 100. The Bureau anticipates the need for the expedited review of petitions under these circumstances biannually that allocate scarce staff resources during even year summary months accordingly. In the events this initiative requires signature review do arrive on or near the 160-day deadline. Here we go. Importantly, that requirement for expedited review does not apply in this case. In the case of the Unlock Michigan petition, the deadline for the Board of Canvassers to review the petition is July of 2022. More than 600 days from now. The Bureau of Elections is committed to ensuring all petitions are reviewed without preference and with priority of ensuring that the review with sufficient staff, resources, and time. Importantly, the Unlock Michigan petition is not the only petition currently under review by the Bureau. The staff will allocate time and resources accordingly to ensure that the review occurs as soon as practicable. I hope this helps provide you and your staff with clarity you requested on the petition review process. Jocelyn Benson, Secretary of State. 600 days. Elections have consequences. So we have responded. As you might have seen on our website, the Unlock Michigan campaign has filed a lawsuit. It was filed today. And it says, today, Unlock Michigan filed suit in the Michigan Supreme Court in an attempt to prevent the Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson and the Bureau of Elections from disenfranchising more than 539 Michigan citizens who signed our petition and supported our initiated law. We collected our petition signatures, nearly 200,000 more than required, under a strict timetable, and beat the requirement by over 100 days. We did our job quickly and efficiently because this is one of the most pressing pieces of public business in Michigan today. At the other end of the process, our constitutional strictly limits the legislature to just 40 days to consider our proposed law. Clearly, our Constitution intends for the people's business to be stamped urgent. It's inconceivable that the framers of our Constitution thought it acceptable for the Bureau of Elections to put the people's business on a shelf to collect dust for months and months on end until they find a more convenient time to do their work, or simply for partisan reasons. The Bureau of Elections has now squandered fully 2 weeks that could have been used to validate our signatures. But if they get to work now, there is plenty of time to arrive at the obvious conclusion. We have more than sufficient signatures to forward our initiated law to the legislature for a prompt vote of our constitutional demands. So we have a letter. We have a response from her. She basically slapped every one of you in the face and said, I can take as long as I feel. I could put it on a shelf for up to 2 years in her mind. And we have filed a lawsuit to stop this from happening. This, again, tells you, every one of you, that elections have consequences. We elected this governor who has gone on to this tyrannical rule. We have elected this attorney general. I know we keep saying this to you, but it's important to note because we have an election coming up in a very, very short, 18, 17 days now. This means we have to get out and vote. And it also means that we have to continue to put pressure on the Secretary of State, and we will. I wanted to be able to talk about that because the next level up here is the Supreme Court. I have posted on our page, it's already been posted in the Stand Up Michigan to Unlock group, the 2 Supreme Court justices that we are recommending you vote for. It is a down ballot initiative. As you know, it is not Republican or Democrat. These are the 2 people that we recommend. Brock Schwartzel, Mary Kelly. They're listed in there and they are savable. So you can save that to your phone, text that to your friends, your family, to make sure that if they're voting early or voting an absentee, that they make sure to mark those ballots. You get to vote for 2. And understand, Markman, who is up for, basically is retired or aged out, is going to be done at the end of December. Therefore, there will be a new Supreme Court justice that has to fill his seat. In addition to that, we have Bridget McCormick, who voted against the 45 law being repealed, but voted in favor afterwards of basically upholding the fact that she did not have any additional time. But she is a liberal justice. She does not agree with anything pretty much we've done. She believes in creating law instead of just ruling for the laws that are on the books. And therefore, we need to elect one of these 2 individuals, and we need to make sure that we vote for them. Again, there is a link there. It's savable so that you can text it, email it, whatever it is, save it on your phone so that those ask who to vote for, you'll be able to share it with those people. The third item that we're talked about here, which is very important, is the House of Representatives. If you'll notice, this whole delay that she is doing here is an effort to potentially take over the House of Representatives by the Democrats. We're saying that because, as you saw in the hearings today, even an unconstitutional law means absolutely nothing to these individuals. That means that they believe that they should leave an unconstitutional law on the books. They also believe that under that law, any governor in the future should be able to use it to unilaterally control them, not let them have any say whatsoever in anything that the legislature would normally do in the separation of powers that has been ruled on both 4-3, 6-1, and finally 7-0 in regards to the 76 law. It was a slapdown as usual. And so we need to elect House of Representatives. So the third thing we want to talk about is the 2 things that we mentioned before, and that was to get a bunch of you to sign up. And that is both to retain the House of Representatives, and it is also for us to make sure that we vote for the candidates in your district. There are some close House districts where they need some help. So we provided you a link. I pinned it to the top of our page this afternoon. That is for you to be able to go and click on and to sign up if you haven't. Hundreds of you have. We need a couple thousand of you to be able to be willing to spend just an evening or 2, just a Saturday or 2 before this election to potentially help knock on doors, put signs in your yard, and do things to help elect either House of Representatives possibly in your district, or you may ask you to travel to a neighboring district to help knock on some doors to secure a couple of seats that are up for re-election. There are some open seats, some people that have been termed out, meaning they've served their 3 terms or six years. There are some close elections in there. And the people that we are recommending in that voter guide are people who have voted and pledged to vote to repeal this 45 law. It is very important, as you saw this week. There are still Democrats who believe that we should leave it on the books and tweak the law. Forget the Supreme Court. Forget the fact they shouldn't have a say. We should leave it on there so that this governor potentially could come right back and use it if indeed they get a different Supreme Court and some different House of Representatives member, and we have to say no. We cannot have done all the work that you've done, 60,000 of you, and I know I'm talking fast. I'm trying to get through this so you can enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening. Share this video, please, off of the page. If you're looking at this into the group, then please go to the page and you can copy it from there. You can also copy and share this or share it from our YouTube channel as well. But this is a very, very important video. Pinned to the top of the page is a place for you to sign up. It's also in the Stand Up Michigan Unlock group as well. You can sign up for Operation Victory. You'll see the link down here at the bottom, Operation Victory. That is going to be a place where you can basically go sign up to be able to help in several areas. It may be putting signs of the Supreme Court justices in your yard. It may be helping, again, be able to knock on some doors or make some calls on behalf of a House of Representatives member who's in a close, tight-knit race. And it can be, of course, to help make sure we spread the word and get some election day operations that still need some help. Once you've signed up, you'll be able to choose the areas in which you can help. And then you will get an email. That email will let you sign up directly with the people running the House reelection campaign. It will give you dates, as we now have a calendar of events in the dates where we need some help throughout the state. That is going to be shared not on this platform, but by you signing up to receive those. Once you get them, you can go down through those dates and say, these are in my area. This is a representative that I need to help, or I'm willing to travel to help. And by clicking on the links that we provide you from that next email, you will be able to sign up through an app and be able to help. To try and also make it a little more fun, we're going to get a couple of senators and House members who are going to sign up for what we're going to call Freedom Door Days. And that will be a link that you'll also see on here very soon, but it will probably note specifically where a senator like a Tom Barrett or a Senator Bumstead or some others and some House members might be coming in to help in those tight races where you can join them. And as a team, for 25 or 50 of you, go knock on hundreds of doors on a given evening, a given day. Maybe it's a Saturday, one of these last 2 Saturdays heading up to the election. We cannot take our foot off the gas now. We absolutely have to continue to hammer down. And I want to show you the reason that we do that. And that was something that was posted on this page last night. I'm not sure if it was posted in the group or not. But again, elections have consequences. And thank God we have a Supreme Court that rules about and takes care of the rule of law, right? So last night, if you recall, this same Secretary of State decided unilaterally to say, you know, I think we don't need to vote necessarily on election day. Our governor went on C-SPAN and CNN and said, November 3rd is an arbitrary day. It doesn't mean we have to decide our election on that day. You all should just realize it may take us weeks to ballot in and bring in on buses additional ballots and count them for up to 14 days after the election. Well, guess what? I have in my fingers. Absentee ballots must arrive by election day to be counted. The Michigan Court of Appeals said Friday, blocking a 14-day extension that had been ordered by the lower court and embraced by key Democratic officials in this battleground state. This is happening all over the country, people. Wake up. We have got to make sure that we secure that Supreme Court, that we hold this House, and that we secure these things going forward so that these type of rulings can come forward, or we would have no say. So we're going to go on here. Any changes must rest with who? Who again? It must rest with the legislature, not the judiciary. And by the way, the Republican appointed appeal court judges said in a 3-0 opinion. We got to point this out because if indeed you're a Democrat, we would have been glad to change the rules unilaterally. We don't need the judicial system. We don't need the legislatures to get involved. We don't even need a lower court who ruled 2-1 that she can do whatever it is she wants. 3-0. Absentee ballot extensions in Wisconsin and Indiana have also been overturned by higher courts. Michigan's ability to handle a flood of ballots will be closely watched in the state that was narrowly won by President Trump in 2016. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson last week said 2.7 million people have requested absentee ballots, and as a result of the change in law that makes them available to any voter. Michigan law says absentee ballots must be turned in by 8 p.m. on election day to be valid. Imagine that. By the end of the day at 8 p.m., they have to be turned in. Does that not sound like every other election, people? But Courts of Claims Judge Cynthia Stevens had ordered that any ballots postmarked by November 2nd could be counted if they arrived within 2 weeks of November 3rd. So again, we're going to have a decision on November 3rd, but maybe on the 17th, we may have a different ruling because we're going to bring in some additional ballots. All they have to do is be postmarked, right? We trust that. Stevens said that there was unfettered evidence about mail delivery problems that had happened during the pandemic. But the appeals court, however, said the pandemic and any delivery woes are not attributable to the state. Imagine that. Again, the Constitution still prevails even during a pandemic. We've been told all along we could throw it away. Executive orders by the Attorney General, the Secretary of State, 180 executive orders by our governor. We don't need to follow the Constitution because we're in a pandemic. Thank goodness the rule of law again prevailed. The appeals court, however, said the pandemic and any delivery woes are not attributable to the state. I'm repeating that. Although these factors may complicate plaintiffs' voting process, they do not automatically amount to a loss of the right to vote absentee, the court said, noting that hundreds of special boxes had been set up throughout Michigan. The court also reversed another portion of Stevens' decision, which would have allowed a non-family member, are you ready for this, to deliver a completed ballot in the final days before the election if the voter consented. I guess we're just supposed to assume that. Are we going to have somebody, by the way, did family members say you could do that? Oh, of course, just drop it off here. Just put them into the boxes. We can have anybody bring them in, maybe boxes full. We picked them up from whatever. Where do you think they got these from? And we can trust them. They got them all because none of those people could come. They're just going to give them to somebody else and turn them in for them. The Constitution is not suspended or transformed even in the times of a pandemic, and judges do not somehow become authorized in a pandemic to rewrite statutes or to displace the decisions made by the policy-making branches of the government, Judge Mark Boonstra said in a separate 10-page concurring opinion. Benson and Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, both Democrats, had declined to appeal Stevens' ruling, leaving it to the Republican-controlled legislature to intervene. We are happy to see this unanimous ruling to uphold the integrity of our election process and reject judicial overreach. The Michigan Democratic Party is very, very disappointed, by the way. Voters should not be punished for delays of the Postal Service. The case was heard by the appeals court. Judge Boonstra, Michael Gadala, and Thomas Cameron all were appointed by Rick Snyder, a Republican, a dastardly Republican, I'm sure, when he was governor and then subsequently elected. The lawsuit was filed by a group called Michigan Alliance for Retired Veterans. Again, that is the rule of law. It was upheld again. There's no 14 days. People can't carry boxes of ballots in that they promised were given them by other family members to be treated as such and turned in anytime in the next couple of weeks after the election. All of that is gone now, people. But it's because we elected and we appointed judges who will follow the rule of law and not make law. Make law based on current circumstances, as they say. The same reason they attempted to stop your voices, to stop your free speech, which they continue to censor and do, to stop our gatherings. And utilizing other departments will not be upheld again. The arrows are running out. The rule of law, thank God, because of great judges who were put into place who are upholding the rule of law for all of us, both in the appellate courts and in the Supreme Court, continually shooting down these unilateral decisions made by, yes, people that we elected, but they are fortunately being, again, struck down one after the other. So it is important for you to go to that pin at the top and volunteer us to help. Volunteer yourselves to help in some way. You can see there, it may be signs, it may be knocking doors, it may be helping on election day to make sure that we validate those that are being turned in. The absentee ballots that are coming in huge volumes, we need election people that are going to question certain ballots. You will be trained and you will be able to be credentialed to be able to serve at a place that we could basically in your own district. If your own district already have enough people, you could be assigned in a neighboring district if you're willing to help there. So we have a bunch of things. We have the Unlock campaign. We have a lawsuit filed there now. Again, the Secretary of State's going to do whatever she feels she wants to do. We have a governor and now the Secretary of State herself who's been struck down yet again. And we have a president and all the cabinet who is coming to this state in volumes right now because they see the tide is turning. The rule of law is there and the energy is high. We need us to finish strong. We have to blow through all of these barriers that we have in this next 18 days. We have to make sure that, again, we can put signs out for these Supreme Court justices and make sure, again, you copy and paste and share that through text, email, however it is you might communicate that to make sure that they vote down ballot for those two justices so that we can not flip this court to a liberal court and have them run these things back up the flagpole again in the future. So we need to make sure those things are done. Those are the things I wanted to share with you today. Again, it's pinned at the top. We also have a couple of those posts underneath for the people to vote on. And finally, you'll notice on the bottom here, we actually did post on there a voter guide. A lot of people have been asking for a voter guide. You can go to the Michigan.gov, print off a sample ballot, and then you can go to this voter guide and you'll be able to click on there and be able to see exactly where those people stand on issues to make sure that you're voting for the person that will uphold the values and the freedoms that we hold so dear to us. So that's it for today. I just wanted to rest it. If you're there again, I wanted to check. I'm going to click back on the comments to see whether there are some of you over there in Muskegon. You can obviously go through these and see these comments afterwards. But really, what I want you to do today is enjoy the day. Watch the president this evening from Muskegon. I think he's going to have some great announcements for Michigan. He's got some terrific things that are happening. Again, shout out to those that are helping. Diane, I know, is over there. I know that some of those that helped in the Unlock campaign are at that event today. And Senator John Bumstead from West Michigan here is going to be able to be on stage. I'm sure there'll be some other people there also, obviously, here in Michigan. It's a terrific day for all of us. We're on the radar, and we're going to finish strong, and we're going to deliver Michigan to make sure that we uphold all of our constitutional rights and liberties going forward. Have a great day, folks. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon.